I enjoy fighting bosses in games, and fighting difficult bosses in games. Very difficult bosses. But what makes a good boss versus a bad boss? I recently just fought the List Keeper, who is a Call of Duty Black Ops 7 Christmas limited time mode boss, and it was so insanely unfair and difficult that it had me thinking, what is a difficult boss that is good versus a difficult boss that is bad? So looking at some games, of course you have Elden Ring that has a ton of very difficult bosses, but the key thing with Elden Ring and many other Souls games is you have a trust that they're fair. So the way I look at it is, I've seen so many different runs of people doing no hits on entire games, and people have no hit all of Dark Souls, all of the FromSoft games. And with that level of consistency, I just believe that there's always a way to dodge something, and there's always a way to dodge something with 100% consistency. Now, whether or not that's true or not is up in the air. Maybe they use different glitches or different strategies to actually do these no-hit runs, but I like to think that they're all fully fair and that every single move can be dodged 100% of the time as long as you actually know how to do it. Now, going to this Call of Duty boss, this List Keeper's challenge, this was not the case. In Call of Duty, you're obviously very limited into how you can actually interact with the game. You can shoot and you can run around. That's pretty much all you got. You don't really have any special abilities or stuff. You got field upgrades and everything, but as far as the basic way you interact with the game, it's either run around, jump and slide, or shoot. So I guess what I want to just ask is, who play tested the fight? Who play tested the List Keeper boss? Clearly it was made for 4 people. It had to be. There's no way someone on the Treyarch team or someone on whatever team beat this solo and was like, you know what, I'm happy with that experience. That's a fair fight. That's an honest difficult challenge. It's not an honest difficult challenge. It's ridiculous because your only way to interact with the game is by moving, and your movement is slowed. You can get stun locked to things. And if your consistent way of beating the boss revolves around an inconsistent movement pattern to try to dodge things, then it's not very consistent. I love difficult fights. I love fights that are very, very challenging, but very fair, as I've said. So if a fight, it honestly comes down to trust. I think if you trust that a game is well designed and you have a fair shot of beating the boss, regardless of how impossible it seems at first, I'm completely okay with that. For an example, some of the more difficult bosses in Elden Ring, when I first fight them, I get one hit off and then I'm done. It seems like such a insurmountable challenge. But because I trust FromSoft, trust a game like Elden Ring, that it's fair and consistent, it makes me want to persevere and continue to go and, fight over and over again. Another thing with that, of course, is runbacks. So when you die to a boss, you want to be able to fight it again as soon as possible. You want to get as many reps in as little time as you can. Just, you can get better at the fight. It improves the process. And over the years, many games I think have gotten better with runbacks. Of course, Elden Ring has the Stakes of Marika, which literally mean there is no runback at all. So you can just constantly focus on the challenge you're actually interested in engaging with. And that's fun. That's fun. No one wants to run through a section that they've already proven they can pass many, many times. So that's another thing that made this List Keeper's boss fight ridiculous, was that the run back is an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half long run back. So you get, because the one thing that was nice about this whole save and quit system on the new Call of Duty Zombies games is that if you're about to die, you can save and quit. And yes, you may lose a self-revive or whatever, depending on the circumstances of the fight, but you can just save and quit and then finish one round and then fight the boss again, and then just save and quit over and over again. And you get way more repetition fighting the boss versus doing a super lengthy Easter egg just to die to the boss and then have to spend an hour and a half getting to it again. So one thing people might say is, that's kind of the point of Easter eggs, it's the journey. But the thing is, some of these new bosses, like the Richtofen fight from Black Ops 6, this List Keeper's boss, they are so difficult that that it seemed unreasonable to have to redo the entire Easter egg again. Some I haven't done a ton of like the old Easter eggs, but some Black Ops 3 Easter eggs I remember is like with Drak and even Origins. The boss fight is not the hardest part, at least for me. When I would die way more often doing the steps of the Easter egg than actually dying to the boss fight. So when I eventually did get to that boss fight, I think it only took me 2 tries to do. And obviously, you know, I fail once, I have to redo the entire Easter egg again. But then once you get to the boss, I think it should either be kind of like not an easy fight, but like a manageable fight, or, well, at least with these new games, you have the save and quit option. Then it can be a little bit harder because you can, of course, have more repetition against it. So, this all being said, I'm basically just saying, what was this List Keeper's boss fight? It was... it was way too difficult. You could not save and quit to get more repetition in. Thought it was just insane. And I want to see the Treyarch dev who beat this. I want to see the playtesting video. Like, there is no chance someone beat this solo comfortably with, like... And another thing, too, is I think a boss should be beatable no matter what. Like, you should never, like, soft lock yourself into not being able to beat a boss. What I mean by that is, for example, for a Call of Duty fight, every boss should be comfortably beatable without any gobblegums. Because if you don't have any gobblegums, well, it's just impossible to do. The difficulty should never be built around a limited resource. You should always be able to have a good chance at beating the boss, or at least have a good way to acquire those resources, like a consistent, fast way to acquire those resources, so then you can beat the boss with the difficulty based around that. The List Keeper's boss fight is gone now. It was a Christmas limited time mode, so none of you have to worry about ever fighting it. And I don't know, that's all I got. I like a good boss fight. This video was initially going to be me just fighting the boss and be like, oh, what is this, man? This is hard. But I thought it'd be a little more interesting to just talk about what is interesting about boss fights and what makes them fun, what makes them engaging. I enjoy a good boss fight. Enjoy a good boss fight as long as it's fair and can be beaten with 100% consistency, or at least the belief of 100% consistency, as close to 100% as possible. So yeah, love a good boss fight. I hope you're enjoying your day. Take care.